Dear Asian Youth. Today, April 30th of 2021, we hit our 1-year anniversary, which is super crazy and amazing considering our story really began quite small. Exactly a year ago, on April 30th, 2020, I remember that I was completely bored out of my mind. And I had been writing poetry ever since we went under quarantine because I wanted to have a space to serve as my creative outlet. Having been affected by the anti-Asian racism from COVID-19, I noticed that a lot of the poetry that I was writing was surrounding my Asian identity. So I began to publish poetry under a blog titled Dear Asian Youth. Every piece I wrote would be like a letter to young Asian people everywhere, letting them know that I heard and understood them. Eventually, I called up Sana Mai, my best friend at school, to ask if she wanted to turn this into like an actual organization where we would go beyond just producing literature, where we could turn this into a safe space that all Asian people would feel heard and represented. She agreed and became the assistant director of Dear Asian Youth. And from that moment on, Day grew bigger and bigger into what it is today.
At first, we started recruiting our friends, but we knew we wanted to expand beyond our inner circle. That's when we started opening applications for writers, editors, and social media managers. However, not everything was so organized in the beginning. Our little team worked day and night to crank out pieces of literature and scrambled to make posts for our Instagram.
One of the first problems we ran into while recruiting more people onto our team was communication. And because none of us had much experience running an organization, we believed that Snapchat would be the best form of communication. So all our important announcements were shared through the shared story on Snapchat that disappeared after a day and was mixed in with pictures of bubble tea, food, and cute dogs. Also, our system for writing and editing literature pieces was practically non-existent. Pieces were written and published spontaneously. Sometimes editors had to edit more than 8 pieces in a span of 2 days. So clearly our system, if it could even be counted as one, was not working.
Everything was completely different from the way it is now. Claire, who is now one of our co-projects directors, was originally our outreach director. I was originally onboarded as our policy director, but once we all realized that none of us actually knew what a policy director did, I ended up becoming our chapter director. Eventually, our team started to get a little organized and transitioned to using Slack as our form of communication. Spoiler alert, that didn't work out down the road.
Despite how unorganized and messy our little organization was, it didn't stop us from doing what we loved. Our team bonded over our passion for this work and eventually became a tight-knit community.
It was through trial and error that we were able to grow at the rate which we did. For every loss, we had a win. Our first big initiative was the Dear Asian Girl social media campaign, which empowered Asian women to share the journey it took them to finally appreciate their heritage. The all-around love for Dear Asian Girl translated to the love for Dear Asian Youth. And before we knew it, we had hit 1,000 followers on Instagram. I remember it was a huge deal, but little did we know what was about to happen.
Then, with our first partnership, we launched our first fundraising effort. Through selling merchandise designed by our illustrators, we were able to raise money for the Black Lives Matter movement. Not long after, one of our posts, "Still Don't Believe White Privilege is Real," went viral, and our other post about the Fox Eye trend reached hundreds of thousands of people. Everyone at Day was so overjoyed, and it felt like we were finally taking off.
Eventually, we held our first webinar where we presented the historical parallels in Avatar: The Last Airbender. While we weren't sponsored by Google, our choice of meeting platform was Google Meets, and our presentation was done via Google Slides, unlike the level of production we strive for today. Luckily, you all still had faith in us and helped us reach 100 registrations, which was the attendee capacity on Google Meets. Keeping the streak going, soon after, we published our 100th piece of literature.
Today, Dear Asian Youth is made up of more than 160 passionate change makers, organizers, and creatives.
Hi. We're the directors.
Hi. We're the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force.
Hi, we're the project
team.
We're the chapter committee.
Hi, we're the moderators team.
We're the social media team.
Hello, we're the tech team.
We're
the finance and data team.
We're the newsletter team.
We're the video editors.
We're the podcast team.
Hi! We're the social media managers.
Dear Asian Youth has reached a national and international audience across all accounts, and we continue to hit milestones every day. Almost a year later, in April 2021, Day has amassed over 100,000 Instagram followers, 156 chapters across 17 countries and 24 states, 30 projects, 3 podcast seasons, and 400 literature pieces. One of our largest and most memorable accomplishments this year was organizing the Women of Color Conference, which had almost 5,000 attendees. The conference allowed for our organization's values of intersectionality and solidarity to ring loudly in our campaign to inspire young women of color.
Our mission at Dear Asian Youth has many moving parts, and each team within our organization is uniquely structured to achieve all of these parts. We ultimately hope to continue empowering Asian individuals to partake in activist spaces because our voices matter. We are committed to producing content that appreciates, celebrates, welcomes our unique identities, backgrounds, and heritage. We hope to create an even more positive, secure, supportive, and safe environment for all members of our organization, as well as the larger Day community. We will continue working towards proportionate representation, centering the relevant communities, and establishing available resources to sustainably and ethically support the communities that we talk about. We will continue to try our best to uplift, celebrate, and center the necessary voices as we continue producing content for our community.
As we look to the future, Dear Asian Youth hopes to serve first and foremost as a community, a safe space to learn, unlearn, and create tangible change. As for some of our department-specific goals, Chapters hopes to uplift, educate, and empower Asian youth as they move forward with innovative vigor to expand our ever-growing international chapter program. Our diversity and inclusion team hopes to increase diversity in all aspects of the content put out by Day, as well as increase proportional representation and facilitate a learning environment in which people feel comfortable asking questions and learning. As for social media, we hope to continue our exponential growth and serve as an online forum for Asians everywhere to feel seen, heard, and represented. We also aim to improve ethical and accurate coverage on meaningful and timely topics, as well as real connection to our audience, and with a dedicated team of 160 passionate researchers, changemakers, organizers, and creatives. Our project team hopes that Day can establish itself among worldwide organizations and even forge partnerships with large companies to further our mission. We will continue to be an organization that strives to place diversity and inclusion at every cornerstone, using those values as guiding principles in every decision we make. We will forever hope to inspire Asian students to practice their activism loudly, proudly, and unapologetically. We want to thank you, our followers, and our team for your dedication and hard work, which in turn has created this incredible community. Dear Asian Youth means so much to so many people across the globe, and we are eternally thankful to serve as a community for Asian activism and support. Again, happy 1-year anniversary. Here's to many more. Love, the Day team.